I'm Dana Gentry, your Communications Director at SEIU. Today we're talking with Judge Janiece Marshall. She's seeking re-election to Justice Court in Clark County. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You've been very active in the diversion courts. That allows people to enter a plea, get into a program that's actually going to help them maybe get rid of an addiction, or in your case it's a shoplifting court, I believe. Tell us why those diversion courts are so important and why the funding for those diversion courts is so important.
Well, here's the interesting thing. I started my program, let me take a step back. When I ran 6 years ago, I was a trial attorney. I worked for private law firms. I defended police officers and firefighters and businesses. And when I started on Las Vegas Justice Court, I saw a cycle of people that would circulate between the jail, Clark County Detention Center, and shelters. And they would suffer from generally three issues: mental health problems, addiction, or homelessness. And to me, it was a complete waste of resources as well as the people's lives to send them to jail over and over again for the same thing. A lot of them stealing for food, for basic necessities of life. So I looked around and tried to figure out how could I stop this cycle, because it costs us $145 a night for someone to be in the jail. It's the easiest thing in the world for a judge to go sentence somebody on a suspended sentence. But if you take the time to understand what this person's underlying problems with, and then create something that is going to rehabilitate the individual, it takes more time, but it saves us money in the long run. So I actually created a diversion program with no new funds, no funding whatsoever. I use existing resources. I started out in my courtroom, sending them through the Neighborhood Justice Center. We created a community involvement panel, all volunteers, found out what their underlying problem was, and then directed them to existing resources that Clark County already has in place, but people don't know how to access. Once I was successful in my courtroom, then I turned to the retailers, and I went to their Southern Nevada Association Retailers meeting and asked them, could we, instead of sending Metro down on shoplifting cases or any of the 8 misdemeanor thefts that you could be charged with if you steal from a store, could we come up with a way that we don't send Metro down? It's a low priority call. It takes 3 or 4 hours. The retailers have 2 or 3 employees, spend 3 or 4 hours sitting there waiting with a shoplifter. Metro comes down, writes a ticket, the person leaves. So what I was able to work out with Metro was to have the retailers prepare the prosecution application. They call with a special number, find out if the person has a warrant. If they don't have a warrant, the person is given a one-time chance to go through my diversion program. They're referred to the Neighborhood Justice Center. They have to get a job or complete their education or get counseling for addiction or mental health issues, whatever it is that they need to do. A lot of people we see are in domestic violence, and they need stable living environment. Those things exist. We just send them to the resources. They do it or they don't. If they don't complete the program, we notify the retailer. Prosecution picks up in 90 days. If they are successful, they are never charged. Metro never comes down. The case is never screened by the district attorney's office. It never hits the court. The retailer's employees never have to come down 1 or more times to testify or appear in court. We've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundreds of Metro calls, because we work throughout Clark County, and the retailers love it because they have an opportunity to make a difference. They don't have to go forward with the prosecution. If the person is successful, they come back as a customer instead of as someone who's been convicted of a crime. Because when you send people to jail with those low-level offenses, they come out with the same problems, and that's why you see the 80% recidivism rate, where they're coming back through as misdemeanors. Through my program, 5% recidivism rate, which means 95% of the people, of the 350 people that have gone through my diversion program, have not reoffended in the last 2 years. So if we want to do something innovative that saves money, we can do it, and that's one of the things that I've worked on in the last 6 years since I was elected.
Now you say that the resources are there. Are the resources for mental health there as well? Were you surprised that you found that these resources are out there?
We do have mental health. We need more mental health because in Nevada, the biggest mental health hospital is actually Clark County Detention Center.
Right.
And that is not the best way to treat people with mental health problems. It actually deteriorates their condition if you are incarcerated. So Nevada as a state needs to spend money on more mental health resources, which you're starting to see because they actually did give a budget for the specialty courts. The specialty courts are, though, the primary amount of that money is spent at the district court level, people that are convicted of gross misdemeanor felonies. I'm talking to people that go through my diversion program. They are on the beginning of their criminal history or their criminal offenses lifestyle before they have stacked up so many that they're going to be charged with felony or gross misdemeanor, or maybe it's even their first offense. So I try to use the existing resources for people that don't have an ongoing years and years problem that they're already being charged at that level, because they're being in prison at that point, going to be sent to prison.
What can you do though with the people who maybe already have a warrant and you don't want to get them into that cycle even more? You want to try to pull them out of it.
One thing that I worked on in addition was I worked on a bail court, trying to get, because we have a system, if you're charged and you're booked after 9 o'clock on Thursday morning, you're not making your first appearance in court until Tuesday. So we have people staying in for 4 or 5 days. We spend $145 a night for someone to be in the Clark County Detention Center. One thing that we learned in looking at doing a population study of who's in the jail last couple of years is we had people on traffic offenses, don't show up for court, they get a warrant. Homeless people, they show up in court on a warrant because they don't know what day they're supposed to be there. People that don't have the money for transportation to come down to court, they miss court or they come to court late. So I always make sure I went to the very end of my calendar before I issue any warrants on somebody who hasn't shown up, because if you're taking a bus transfer and it takes you 3 times, you may not get there at 8 o'clock. So I always make sure issue my warrants at the end of court. Any attorney knows, as long as I'm on the bench, they're never late in my courtroom. I think that's really important. But what we did for traffic offenses is if there was a warrant, we would allow them an opportunity, at least an hour, to pay the offense or a percentage of it rather than be booked into the Clark County Detention Center. Not only did we save a lot on people not being booked, it actually turns out to be revenue increase because people pay their traffic ticket. And what happens when they come to court is they'll be pleading guilty after being in 5 days for custody. That's more than they would ever have to spend for a sentence on a traffic offense, for speeding, things of that nature. So we actually changed the system to give people an opportunity to actually pay their ticket if that's all their warrant is for.
And not disrupt their lives through
Right.
the process.
It's a problem, and it's being considered by the legislature again about whether to convert traffic tickets from civil to criminal, which that is a policy decision, and that's something that the legislature has to take up and consider. They just need to make sure that if they convert it, that they give us, the judges, a full schematic approach so we have the tools to enforce what they want to do. But that is a change in the system that other states have adopted, because in my researching it for the consideration when I testified at the legislature, it is about $650 for every warrant that we issue, which is a lot of money. And most people that have traffic tickets just forgot to pay their ticket, and they don't know where the court is, they don't know how to pay it. We've tried to improve the system that you can pay it online, that you could call up and pay it, that you come to court, you can be put on calendar that day, so people pay your traffic tickets or come in and take care of it, so you don't have to.
So you don't have to see Judge Marshall.
That's right.
All right. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, and thank you to the Service Employees Union for endorsing me. I can't tell you how much it means to me. I am humbled and I'm honored by the support of the people that run Las Vegas, that I work shoulder to shoulder with every day. So it means a lot to me to have your endorsement.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.